In the early hours of a crisp November morning in 1971, Thanksgiving Eve, a man in a dark suit and sunglasses stepped onto a Northwest Orient Airlines flight from Portland to Seattle. He purchased his ticket at the counter under the name Dan Cooper and walked down the jetway to Flight 305, a Boeing 727 with an unusual feature: a rear air stair that could be lowered in flight. Less than an hour later, at 10,000 feet above the dense, shadowy forests of the Pacific Northwest, he would vanish into thin air, leaving behind one of the greatest mysteries in American aviation history, never to be seen again. For over 50 years, the case of D.B. Cooper has remained unsolved, a tantalizing puzzle that continues to captivate and baffle. On that fateful day, Cooper, a quiet and unassuming man, took control of the flight with a simple note handed to a stewardess. "I have a bomb," it read. Calmly, he demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes, a request that was met with both fear and cooperation. He ordered a bourbon and 7-Up, smoked Raleigh cigarettes, and spoke in a measured tone as if he were discussing a schedule rather than a hijacking. He knew what to ask for, and he knew the 727's capabilities well enough to insist the plane fly slow and low. Flaps set, gear extended southbound toward warmer skies. The story hinged on the crew, stewardess Florence Schaffner, who took his note, Tina Mucklow, who relayed his demands, and Captain William Scott with his officers, guiding the aircraft while the FBI scrambled to respond. By nightfall, Seattle's FBI office was buried in maps, weather charts, and lists of serialized bills. The launch of NORJAK, one of the most infamous manhunts in history. The timeline of events was precise, almost methodical. As Flight 305 circled Seattle, a bank hastily assembled $200,000 in $20 bills, their serial numbers recorded. The parachutes, 2 main and 2 reserves, were collected from a local skydiving school. On the tarmac at SeaTac, amid cold rain and vapor from the fuel trucks, Cooper inspected the money, accepted the chutes, and allowed the passengers to disembark. He kept the cabin dim and the shades drawn. When the plane took off again, he directed the crew to head for Mexico City, requesting a fuel stop in Reno. He instructed them to fly at 10,000 feet, with the flaps at 15 degrees and the landing gear down, a configuration few casual travelers could have specified. The rear air stair was to be lowered in flight. Somewhere over the rugged terrain of Washington state, a little after 8 p.m., the cockpit felt an abrupt shudder, recorded at 8:13 p.m., and the altimeter flickered. The crew believed it was the moment Cooper opened the rear stairway and leaped into the night, clutching his fortune. From the cabin, Tina Mucklow had already been sent forward. Her last memory of him was of a man calmly securing the money with cord cut from one of the reserve parachutes, refusing help and telling her, "No one comes back here." When the plane landed safely in Reno in the early hours, FBI agents swarmed aboard. The air stair hung scuffed. Cooper was gone, swallowed by the darkness and the vast wilderness below. The mystery deepened with each detail. His real ticket read Dan Cooper, but a news typo gave us the name that stuck. Only $5,800 of the ransom ever surfaced, decades later, on a Columbia River sandbar far from the expected drop zone. And in 1978, a 727 placard turned up along a logging road, another clue without a clear link. Despite decades of investigation, the trail grew cold. Agents collected Cooper's tie, later found to hold microscopic particles linked to aerospace materials, a detail that hinted he may have worked around advanced manufacturing. Yet every lead, from casinos to rural suspects, dissolved without result. Over time, Cooper became a folk legend, a symbol of defiance against authority. Books, films, and recent documentaries have revisited the case, keeping debate alive. Even aviation itself changed. Boeing 727s were eventually retrofitted with a device nicknamed the Cooper vane, ensuring no one could repeat his escape. Theories continue to divide investigators and enthusiasts alike. Some argue Cooper never survived the jump, pointing to the freezing rain, rough terrain, and his lack of proper gear. Himmelsbach, the lead FBI agent, was convinced no experienced parachutist would leap into a storm at night wearing loafers. Others insist Cooper was skilled, perhaps ex-military, and knew exactly what he was doing. Theories have tied him to names like Richard Floyd, McCoy, Robert Rackstraw, and Sheridan Peterson, each aligning with fragments of the evidence, but never fitting cleanly. Online sleuths still debate the case in forums and podcasts, dissecting every clue, as if the next angle might finally break it open. By 2016, the FBI officially closed NORJAK, acknowledging that after decades of dead ends, the trail had gone cold. Yet 3 details still gnaw at researchers. The unexplained bump at 8:13 p.m., the $5,800 in rotting bills discovered on the Columbia River years later, and the titanium particles found on Cooper's discarded tie. A hint he may have worked in aerospace or advanced manufacturing. These unresolved threads remain the anchors of the case, keeping speculation alive even without new evidence. And so the mystery endures. Was D.B. Cooper a reckless amateur who never made it out of the woods, or a meticulous outlaw who pulled off the perfect escape and lived quietly ever after? His leap remains suspended in American folklore, a moment frozen between certainty and myth. Until hard evidence surfaces, the legend of D.B. Cooper will remain exactly what it has been for over 50 years. The only unsolved hijacking in US history, and a story that refuses to close.
Follow Mind Trip Cafe for full-length ghost stories, chilling mysteries, and eerie legends.